Hello? Hello? Yeah, it's me. It's Desper Volgo here. Yeah, good. Are you listening to me right now? Yes? Good. So as you are listening to me, do you consider my voice as an external thing, or is my voice inside your head? I mean, I'm pretty sure that the interpretation of my voice is like occurring in your body, specifically in your brain, and more specifically in your auditory cortex. And even more specifically in your consciousness. I'm also pretty sure that you think or know for a fact that my voice is an objective activity happening outside of your interpretation, right? Okay, interesting. Well, I mean, it's a common understanding. It's a common understanding. But of course, there is always a but. And that's obviously the reason why I'm making this video. So I'm going to try to prove that it is impossible to prove that reality exists beyond our thinking. And I'm pretty sure you don't like that statement. But follow this reasoning for a moment, please. So, your logical thinking logically determines the conclusion that I and my voice exist objectively outside and independently of your consciousness and outside of your thinking. Whether you think about me or my voice or not, I still exist regardless. Now just think about this sentence. I exist outside of your thinking. And not only me, so let's generalize this to the maximum and say that existence as a whole exists objectively outside of your thinking. Do you notice the paradoxical notion in this claim? The reason why this is paradoxical is because the sentence existence exists outside of my thinking is itself produced by the act of my thinking. To say that existence lies outside of thinking is saying that everything that can ever be produced by thinking has absolutely nothing to do with the objective existence that lies outside itself. Now the strange thing is that all of our thinking is pretty much pointing directly towards this so-called objective reality that lies outside of itself. But actually it is impossible to confirm that claim because thinking can never escape itself. Thinking can never go outside itself and actually prove that reality exists without us thinking about it. The only way to confirm reality is through thinking, but our thinking concludes that reality lies outside of thinking, so we're dealing with a fundamental problem here. But there is a solution. If you want to go and check out the objective reality, you simply have to stop thinking about it. Just experience reality without thinking. And when you're actually experiencing it, then you're not experiencing it. Because to think that you are experiencing it, that's just more paradoxical thinking about reality that lies outside of thinking. And that's why the actual objective reality is precisely the negative or the exact opposite of the reality that we're talking about through thinking. So when you are, for example, we are inside the objective reality, then we are not inside of it. And when you're really enlightened, then you aren't enlightened. Because all of that is conceptualized thinking. And again, the true reality lies outside of thinking. Does this all mean that reality does not exist? The answer is no. Does this mean that reality exists? The answer is also no. Everything outside of thinking is neither true or false, neither real or unreal, neither yes or no, neither good or bad, neither attractive or repulsive, neither soft or rough, neither dualistic or non-dualistic, and so on. Do you notice where I'm going with this? The actual objective reality is perfectly balanced between the dualistic nature of our thinking. All of our thinking is based on a true or false claim, a good or a bad claim, a yes or a no claim, an on or an off, a beautiful or horrific claim, etc. It will always be located somewhere in the dualistic spectrum. But the objective reality is in between all the dualities, perfectly balanced and outside of the dualistic nature of thinking. Reality is always balanced because reality is perfect and absolute. And everything that is out of balance is relative, subjective, and has nothing to do with the objective reality. Now, I'm not finished yet. There is more. So when we observe nature and all of life, what is the inherent purpose of everything? Why does water behave like it does when a ship is interacting with it? Why does a sheet of paper behave like it does when it interacts with a small breeze? Why does all of life procreate? I think one simple important answer to these questions is stability or balance. As we think about it, all of reality is like trying to maintain stability. When you leave water alone, it will retract towards a flat surface. The natural tendency of all the stuff in the universe is to find a way towards zero energy. And anytime anything interacts with anything else, there will be energy and movement. Now, the way this energy and movement is manifesting itself is precisely based on its attraction towards a state of zero energy. So as you observe reality right now, you're looking at how everything is trying to find a way towards the state of zero energy. Now again, there is a but. Actually, it is fundamentally impossible for reality to achieve a state of absolute zero energy. Why? Because when there is zero energy, there is zero movement, zero space, zero time, zero reality. In other words, no reality at all. We call this the absolute nothingness. So this brings us to the next subject of nothingness. So what is absolute nothingness? Absolute nothingness is the impossibility for something to exist. Absolute nothingness contains nothing, so it really can do nothing at all. So since it contains nothing at all, it actually doesn't exist. Absolute nothingness is itself impossible. In other words, it literally is impossible for there to be absolutely nothing. So there must always be something. Does that make sense? Nothing itself doesn't exist and can never exist. Nothing itself is literally impossible. The only inevitable possibility is that there can only be something for infinity. So here is the next conclusion. All of reality is pursuing the state of zero energy or absolute nothingness. But this nothingness itself is impossible. So reality is chasing the impossible, and it will never get there. So reality will revolve for infinity around the impossible, and it has done so for infinity. Now what does this mean? This means that reality never came into being, for it has always been there, since it couldn't come out of nothing. Now I'm still not finished. There is still some more. Hang in there. Remember that the true objective reality lies outside of our thinking, and that it is perfectly balanced between the dualistic nature of thinking. In fact, this perfect balance is the zero state of energy. Interesting, isn't it? When we think about reality, we see that it pursues the zero state and that it does so for infinity, while at the same time, the objective reality outside of thinking is already in the zero state, and it has always been there for infinity. Well, in fact, for no time at all. As you notice, the subjective thinking about reality and the objective reality itself are two opposites. Yet at the same time, they are one and the same thing. As you see, it's really, really tricky. So in a nutshell, when reality is converted into subjective thinking, it becomes an infinite movement that revolves around the impossible, the so-called absolute truth, while at the same time the objective reality is itself indeed the impossible, which means that it actually is neither possible nor impossible, neither something nor nothing, neither real nor unreal, neither existing nor non-existing. Ta-da! Okay, I've kind of reached the end now, and I don't really care whether you understood it or not. If you understood it, then you didn't. And if you didn't, or you refute my arguments, then, well, thank you. Because then you will continue the process of infinite movement revolving around this impossible truth. Oh, and last but not least, everything I've said here was actually complete bullshit. So I'm sorry for wasting your time. But thanks though.